Greetings, Mr. Paul. Decided to make a video response to your latest comment, so get right to it. First sentence: it is not detrimental to be optimistic when there is high risk. First of all, just being the grammar police here, we're dealing with, when in philosophy you gotta be precise with your wording. You're saying it is not detrimental to be optimistic when there is high risk. This word "not," it should be either never or sometimes or something that tells me, you got high risk, and you're saying it is never detrimental to be optimistic when there's high risk. But if there's high risk, you shouldn't be optimistic. There's high risk. Going on, just because there is high risk does not necessarily mean that it is unlikely that things will come out positive. Well, again, you're talking about high risk. It could all go well, but it could end in tears. There's high risk. So, and plus, you're making it sound like this is high risk for yourself, or what we're talking about is you're placing somebody else at high risk. You have no skin in the game, as they say. So, going on, this argument ignores the fact that we trade risk for reward in life. Yeah, who's we? The one you're going to bring into the world? If you want to take high risk with your own welfare, that's fine. But we're talking about putting somebody else in a high risk situation. It is not perfect, but that is how things are. Well, yeah, for you, fine. Doesn't mean you can go jumping out of airplanes or whatever, but you can't throw somebody else out of an airplane. To jump to the conclusion that everything else should be overruled because completely preventing suffering is beyond our limited scope, well, no, it's not. That's what antinatalism is saying. We can voluntarily stop reproducing. There's no harm in not reproducing. As humans, is not sound. Well, why is it not sound? You're just stating it's not sound because of our supposed limited scope. But we're not limited. We don't have to procreate. There is no need to procreate. It would make sense if we had the power to do so and choose not to. Why? Why would that make sense? Why does it make sense to put somebody else in harm's way? Why is it okay to put somebody else in a high-risk situation? Going on, yes, joy and pain have their chemicals, which are a notification to us humans it is a product of our brains. Right. The nature of our existence and how we exist. Right. We're just biological machines doing our thing. The abstract part of it is not mutually exclusive. Well, the abstract part is, what our brains come up with. That's fine, but it's the brain and the chemicals doing it. We really aren't doing it. We are here. I agree. I am making a video. You are watching it. There's a we, but it's all being done by the brain. Not mutually exclusive with the chemical part. Well, but the chemical part is creating that abstract thought. They are a product of those reactions in outside stimuli. Right. Everybody's different because they have different stimuli. They allow us to differentiate. Exactly. I am differentiating. There is pain and there's pleasure. They're two different things. We are born into a painful situation. It's just by default. The pleasures, like I said before, keep us in the game. Without the pleasures, we'd just be miserable completely, without any joy. As it is now, we're miserable, but we get this joy to keep us motivated. Your questions about existence and consciousness are beyond the scope of this debate and are another debate entirely. I disagree. I mean, you posted a philosophical type of well, it was a picture of Hawking's saying the world is grand, or the universe is a grand design. He's extremely grateful. We have this one life. We have this one life to appreciate. I mean, it's Pollyannish. I mean, most people think that their lives are better than most people. The world's full of Pollyannas. I'm not saying I was a Pollyanna for a long time, but life finally, I got through all the public relations we're bombarded with from day one. What was it? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, whistle while you work, like propaganda, public relations, whatever you want to call it. It's been going on for a long time. That's why there's so many Pollyannas. And if this is the case, and we do not even agree on what consciousness and existence is, then this discussion is pointless, because we would be arguing for and against two different things. I thought we were in agreement. You're concurring somewhere that you said, yeah, we're just a bunch of chemicals. I mean, this is a philosophical debate. Truth and principles of being, knowledge, and conduct. And consciousness and existence are right there smack dab in the middle of philosophy. There is no system of specifying what joy is versus pain. There's no system of specifying what joy is versus pain. Yes, there is. It's language. Philosophy is taking using our language, making an argument, using truth to get to certain principles about how we should go about living our lives. So you're saying because of that, which is wrong, there is a system. I mean, pain, we all know it. It's like, I have to explain this. Suffering sucks. I mean, I've tried. I don't know if you answered the question. I mean, what do you put your money on? Are you going to put your money on getting whatever floats your boat, or are you going to put your money on avoiding some great pain? You're going to avoid the pain before you get what you want. Because pain sucks. And joy, I mean, there's different joys for different people. I like Formula One racing still. I know I should give it up. It's totally ridiculous. But it's just, I don't know, it's cool. Those cars are, top of the line that mankind can make right now. Road racers. They're cool. Joy. It's up to the individual to decide, and that part of existence is somewhat subjective. The individual can decide whatever they want for themselves, as long as they don't involve a third party or a second party, whatever. And with natalism, there's two adult parties conspiring to bring another one of them into the world, because apparently we need more knowledge and understanding of the world. So we're going to put somebody in harm's way just so we can understand even more than we already understand. We understand a lot. I mean, we're going for the God particle, but what's that going to do for humanity? I guess they're going to be able to see before the Big Bang, so what? Is that going to change anything on Earth? No. Okay, choosing an ovum is not a choice. Choosing an ovum is not a choice, even in the current situation, so asking that question is pointless. How is it not a choice? I mean, it's a choice. You decided to fertilize an ovum. Which is the lucky one? And which are the unlucky ones? See, if you're saying that that ovum needs to be fertilized, why does that one need to be fertilized and not the next one? Procreation does not involve anyone choosing a specific ova. Well, in effect, they are. They are choosing a specific ova. I mean, maybe they'd simply say, oh, it doesn't matter which ova. But you know, they're going to keep trying. Every time an ova comes out, whatever the next ova is the winner, right? You've chosen to fertilize an ovum. Once that act of sex may result in procreation happens, that is out of the human's control. So your question is pointless and only works on a hypothetical level. What you're going to go after the act of sex, which was a choice to have sex. First of all, that whatever happens after that is out of their control. Well, yeah, you got to look at the before you have sex. You got to understand. You're rolling the dice, some very dangerous dice, for somebody else, unless you're using contraception. But I personally had a vasectomy, so I don't have to worry about procreating ever again. Well, I guess there's a slight chance they can grow back together, but that's very slight. I did, as far as I can see, the best I can do. So my question is not pointless. I'm talking about what actually happens. Yeah, so am I. And the reality is that that is one of many things beyond our control. No, the act of sex is not beyond our control. It's the 21st century. At least try not to, procreate. Use contraception. Get a vasectomy if you're not too squeamish. It's not that bad. I had it done in the Army. I think you didn't wait long enough for the stuff to kick in, and it hurt for a couple seconds. Anyhow, just because there is uncertainty about how long one will live to provide, just because there's uncertainty, just because we don't know what the hell is going to happen, is not grounds for not having one. Well, I say it is. If you're uncertain, you're rolling the dice, some dangerous dice for somebody else, and you're not certain of what's going to happen. See, if you want to roll the dice with your own life, go ahead. But we're talking about rolling the dice for somebody else. You're gambling with somebody else's money. It's a trade-off with our existence. Again, you're imposing that on somebody else, this trade-off. Maybe they don't want that trade-off. That happens. You weigh the pros and the cons and you make a decision. Exactly. If we let uncertainty paralyze us, nothing would get done. So what? Well, I mean, the people that are here are going to get stuff done, or not, but you can't. You should let it paralyze you when you're rolling the dice for somebody else. Unless one has a disease that will kill them soon, they can safely operate under the assumption that they will more than likely be able to provide. Well, I mean, again, you're assuming for somebody else's welfare. Because disease happens. It happened to my mom. I mean, I was 19. I was an adult, but she succumbed to pneumonia due to, she'd just gone through cancer chemo or whatever the hell, so she couldn't fight off the pneumonia, and she passed away. I was still living at home at the time, so it's not, it's not an unforgivable act. Everybody, You got 7 billion people. I mean, I was on the tail end of the baby boomers. Everybody was, you know, making babies. And that's the thing. I was on the tail end. We just made a whole bunch of babies. Why another one? Why me? Really? We don't know anything 100% certain, but it is not sound to let that paralyze one from acting or making a decision, period. But you should have said on somebody else's behalf. No. On your own life, decide away. When you get involved with somebody else's life, it changes the dynamic of the situation. If that uncertainty is so important, why do anything? Well, again, do whatever you want, just don't involve somebody else in your uncertain acts. If you want to take a risk with your own body or whatever, go ahead. You can't risk my body, you can't push me out of the plane unless I want to, but if I want to, you don't got to push me. Why save for retirement? Because retirement sounds so cool. You work all your life, you just want to relax and kind of enjoy the enjoyments life has to offer, even though you're still, you never reach whatever goal you want. There's always be something else out there, and you're still gonna have to be cleaning up messes and what have you. Why work for anything? Well, I'm working to stop people from procreating. That's what I'm doing. I think it's a virtuous goal, even though I don't like the word virtue because I'm a determinist. So virtue and vice are just those things just happen. If you're virtuous, you just got lucky, and if you're full of vice, you got unlucky. You don't know if you'll be here later, so what's the point? Well, yeah, I mean that's the point when it comes to procreation. Why bring somebody else into this mess? I mean, really, it is messy. It just is sloppy. 500 million years or so of predator and prey. Lions eating antelope, and crocodiles eating antelope, and antelopes just going about their business eating grass. It's unintelligent design. It's not grand. It's not a grand design. Clearly, you don't understand what the meaning of black and white issue is. Well, sure, okay, fine. Not completely black and white, but it's as close to black and white as I think you can get. You're either a natalist or you're an anti-natalist. There's no gray area here, okay? I have my reasons for being an anti-natalist. They're good reasons. You're telling me, you're basically saying that the pleasures equal the pain, and I'm saying you haven't given me a pleasure yet that equals the pain of the example I gave was a child being kidnapped, raped, and murdered. Where's the pleasure that equals that one little bit? Well, it's a big bit of suffering, but it happens. What pleasure is equal to that pain? You make it seem like it's just an either this or that situation, and clearly demonstrated by the fact that you attempt to provide examples and arguments that it is a complex situation made up of various factors. That was a long one. You make it seem like it's just an either this or that. Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I just said. You're either a natalist or you're an anti-natalist. True dichotomy. There's no in between. There's no gray area. I can't just suddenly change my mind and be a natalist without some rational argument. When clearly demonstrated the fact that you attempt to provide examples and arguments that it is a complex situation made up of various factors. Well, I mean, Yeah, you get in the micro, it's complex, but you step back, look at the big picture. What do you see? Sentient beings being brought into a world, struggling. I already said this in a comment. Suffering. I call it chasing rainbows. My Formula One, I'm chasing a rainbow, and then dying over and over again. Just because some screwed up people come from, well, there's a lot of screwed up people come from well-to-do families is not argument against those that do. Well, I'm just saying that, see, not everybody experiences suffering at a great level, but there is a lot of great suffering, and there is, I mean, all I'm saying is, if, just because you're rich and everything seems kosher or whatever, doesn't mean your child's going to be Einstein or whatever. There's a risk. There's always a risk, even if you're rich and smart and what have you. That is fallacious logic. No, it's not. See, you're saying some. Yeah, I need all. You have to be using words like all and every time. There's no risk in procreating. That's what will convince me. Show me how there's no risk. As long as there's risk with somebody else's welfare, I'm not going to change my mind. You got to show me how risking someone else's welfare for whatever reason you have is irrational. I do not remember which specific fallacy it is off the top of my head, but I remember enough to know that there is one. No, there is none. We're talking about risk here. You're using the word some. That means that some are screwed up and some are, well, okay by the standard definition of okay, even though okay, again, going back to the Pollyanna principle thing, most people think their lives are better than most people. Okay, your arguments are without merit, and they would only appeal to people who do not have a comfortable existence. That's untrue. That is totally untrue. I mean, relatively speaking, I would say at least most of the people in the United States are comfortable, even though it's really, you know, the economic situation is screwed up. I mean, it could be worse. Like my dad used to say, yeah, it could be worse, but it could be a lot better too. And could not provide one either. That's just not true. Let's back that up with something. Where's your research on that? I mean, I mean, most people are natalist. I'm in the minority here, and I know there's anti-natalists on YouTube that have lived perfectly good lives and still are, but they recognize that the argument is sound. You cannot risk somebody else's welfare for your joy, which is essentially what parents do. I have a son. I did it because I wanted a child. I wanted to experience raising a child. I mean, they do neat things, but the fact is, I put him in a risky situation. I mean, he's okay with life right now, but he has suffered. He broke his arm, and because some kid at the playground decided to put one of these half-moon semicircle seesaws up against the curb and put my son here, and he launched him into the air, and he landed on the sidewalk. Anyhow, as far as the DNA scenario, it would be irrelevant and useless to answer the question because it rests on an assumption that everything would play out exactly the same in a scenario which had no intervention. Well, yeah. I'm saying you're going to start this whole thing all over again. It's going to play out the exact same way. Do you squash that DNA molecule, or do you let the blood flow? Things being as they are to some degree either what you would expect or at the very least not too surprising when one acknowledges there is no sentient intervention. Things being as they are to some degree either what you would expect, or at the very least not too surprising when one acknowledges there is no sentient intervention. Well, yeah, it's not surprising. This shit's all fucked up. Unintelligent design. Unintelligent. Stupid. Life is stupid. What would be the point of intervening if you couldn't change anything? The change would be you either squash it entirely or you say, screw this shit. My joy is not worth all that blood. And just nip it right in the bud. All the horror that's gone on will be stopped if you squish that DNA molecule. Of course, I guess you'll cease to exist too, but whatever. I mean, so it's a thought experiment. It answers the question, is your life worth so much that all that horror is worth it? Also, to do so would be to remove the choices of others and their existence without them having any say-so in it, which is not sound. Well, yeah, we're saying this is too bloody to start again. It's just too sloppy, too messy. I'm not going to allow it to happen. I mean, we're all going to die anyhow. Why go through all that horror if you're just going to die in the end? If you have issues that are clouding your judgment, now the issues aren't clouding my judgment. It's just part of it's my personal circumstance is just it's a small piece in the puzzle. It just so happens I'm an anti-natalist and shit hit the fan. I was doing great for whatever. How old was I when I got laid off? I was 49. I'm 51 now. I mean, and have you out of touch with reality? No, I'm perfectly in touch with reality. You just don't like the reality I'm describing, and it is a reality. I'm not making this shit up. Then I have no reason to take you seriously, and I suggest you continue to seek help. Well, yeah, whatever. You're saying is, what you're saying is, I need help to stop being an anti-natalist. You can help me there. Give me a rational argument. I mean, come on. Furthermore, if the goal is to minimize suffering as opposed to completely prevent it, well, that's not. But there's the maximian. Is completely prevented. That's, yeah. So yeah, there are ways, much healthier ways of doing so without denying procreation. Really? How so? I mean, procreation creates another needy being that is going to be harmed. It's 100% guarantee. So the healthiest route is anti-natalism. It completely prevents suffering. Well, I mean, once we're gone. I mean, there's going to be suffering as long as there's humans on the planet. Once the humans are gone, no more suffering. And thus making your philosophy unnecessary. Untrue. You see, if that's the goal, that's your goal. That's not my goal. And honestly, just a pseudo-legitimate reason to bitch about one's misfortunes in life. Well, it's coincidence that my life kind of really, well, I mean, even my life right now could be a lot worse, but, I mean, it could be a lot better. Quote, I suffer in my life, so I feel it would be better to not exist. Therefore, nobody should exist. You're quoting who? Okay, I think you're paraphrasing me. No, it's not I suffer in my life. I'm not the only person suffering. Everybody suffers. That's the argument. See, I didn't even want to respond to that. I just figured, my little part in life just adds to the evidence that is already there. That's an incredibly huge leap and is unsound. No, well, again, suffering exists. You're talking about nobody should exist because that will eliminate suffering. If you just keep procreating, you're just adding skulls to the mountain of skulls that are already out there. That's the argument. It's not because I suffer in my life. I'm just one of many that are suffering. You suffer too. You just want to be Pollyannish. I have no reason to take your philosophy seriously. Yes, well, maybe you don't, but that's not going to change my mind by you stating you have no reason. I've given you plenty of reason to accept my philosophy. And I did not take you or your philosophy seriously. Well, then I'm taking you seriously. I mean, I really believe this is what you believe. Life sucks. Do something about it, or not. I am doing something about it. I'm telling people don't bring more people into this mess. See, I mean, I am doing something. Jesus. But then you're telling me I can't, I'm being inconsistent if I don't kill myself. Is that doing something about it? Bitching about it will do nothing. Prove it. Prove that statement. Prove that me bitching about life, with evidence to back it up. I'm not just making up a story here. That somebody won't see me bitching and say, oh, well, he's got a point there. No one's going to take that stance on my rant. They're not going to say, he's got a point. I mean, I do have a point. So, I think nothing else to add. That was the end of your comment. Till next time.